Hi guys, I've got a bit of a cold this week. It was really bad on like Monday, Tuesday. I knew I was going to get it anyway, but it definitely didn't help that I did the half marathon on Sunday just gone. And I say half marathon like that because that's what I expected to run. And then we got to the start line. Well, we were just about to set off actually. The group before us were just setting off and they were delayed by a bit. And over the tannoy they said, oh, because of the wet weather we've been having, the park has been flooded. So I was like, oh, okay. I mean, fine, but I used to live by this park. So I was like, I don't remember it ever flooding, but sure. So I was delayed setting off by about 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes. It really wasn't a lot. And then as we were running, it was basically a massive loop. And as we were running back down this massive loop, we didn't go through the park. And I figured by then we'd be going through this park. And one of my little zero waste tactics was that Filippo was going to meet me in this park and he was going to have a bottle of water and a banana for me to have a cheeky snack and a drink of water, so I didn't need to use a bottle of water or take anything from any of the stalls on the side of the track. So we didn't go through this park, and as we were running down the side of the park where we should have gone in, I saw the sign that said like 8 miles, 7 miles, 8 miles. I can't quite remember which one it was now. But I was like, lovely, over halfway, still got a way to go, but doing really well. And then we ran a little bit further down. It really wasn't that far. And I passed the 12-mile mark and I was like, something's gone amok here. Something's not quite right. And we were all sort of, you're very much in your zone by this point. But then we were all sort of chatting to each other like, is that sign right? Like, what's just gone on? And one of the women who I was chatting to, she had like a Fitbit and she was like, this isn't right, because we have apparently only done 10 miles by this point, or just maybe 11 we'd done by this point, and they were saying like 12, and we're like, oh, this isn't right. So anyway, finished the race, and as I finished the race, for whatever reason, my number didn't register that I'd finished the race. So then I come off the track and then I meet Filippo and finally have that drink of water. And I realise that on his app it still says that I'm running, even though I finished running. And then eventually it did stop. But while I was still running, it was giving a like estimated time of when I'd stop running, based on doing the full half marathon. So yeah, then it finished, then I got the time that I actually finished the 11.7 miles in, and then we worked out how long it would have taken me to do the full half marathon. So that was basically a very long-winded story to explain why I sound a little bit groggy today, a little bit under the weather. But I'm feeling much better today. Spent some time outside, so felt really good to get some fresh air. And yeah, so this week's live is all about eating meat. This is a topic that I have never really touched upon on the blog, on social media. I thought it was time to discuss it on the live because it's something I have thought about so much during my zero waste journey that it almost didn't seem right not to discuss it at all. I know that this topic may well cause some kind of flack, like people may say that what I'm doing is wrong or what I've done in the past is wrong, but what I see, and I know people, you guys out there, some of you will be vegetarians and you will have been a vegetarian for a very long time. Some people will be vegans and likewise a very long time, or very much had an easier journey with knowing what to do than I have. And some people out there will be meat eaters. Maybe some of you have reduced the amount of meat that you eat, but you still eat meat. What I wanted to do with this live is I just wanted to give you an honest account of pretty much everything that I have thought about in terms of my zero waste journey and eating meat. I'm going to share with you like the crappy excuses that I used to use. And I want to give you also the insight, the different things that made me like really deeply consider about whether what I was doing was the right thing. But I very much don't want this to be a preach at all, because when I'm sharing my story, you'll realise like you're not an expert in this area. You've not been perfect, and I haven't. I put my hands up and say that I haven't. So I am purely just sharing my own story in the hopes that, I don't know, either you can tell me, Charlotte, I'm way better at you than that, and that's brilliant, and I will absolutely share your success, like, well, congratulate on you on your success. But equally, if you're someone else who has similar kind of thoughts to me or has in the past, and what I'm sharing helps you, it's worth it. So let's go right back to the start of my zero waste journey. So at the start of 2017, that is when me and Anna went zero waste. As a part of our New Year's resolution, we decided we could do the full year waste free. And back then, our description of waste free very much meant like no items in the bin that would go to landfill. So that meant recycling was fine. We hadn't really thought anything different, like we didn't know really about recycling in the UK and what recycling was like. So it was purely no non-recyclables going into the bin. Didn't know anything about composting, didn't know anything about water consumption, any of that. Like, I didn't know anything like that. I certainly didn't know anything to do with eating meat and how that could have an impact on my zero waste living. So I carried on my diet as normal as it was, like no real change between going zero waste and, pre-zero waste and going zero waste. There was almost no difference in my diet. And I watched the film Cowspiracy probably about I'd say maybe a year after I'd started going zero waste. So I was quite far into my journey then. And I watched Cowspiracy, and the reason why I watched it is because I was part of lots of different zero waste groups, and lots of people were saying, you can't be properly zero waste if you are not a vegan. And obviously that kind of thing brings up a lot of, I don't know, I'll say resentment. If you're not vegan, but you're someone who feels like they're doing everything that they can to lower their waste, and somebody says, you can't call yourself zero waste if you're not vegan, it puts you in a bit of a tricky situation. So I was like, okay, I've got to watch this film, got to watch Cowspiracy. Let me know if you've watched Cowspiracy. Carrie, hiya, you've watched Cowspiracy. You have to wait and see. You have to watch the end of the video to see whether I'm going to go vegan. So yeah, watch Cowspiracy. Changed the way I thought about loads of different things. The one bit that really stuck out to me was the guy said at the start of the film he felt like he'd been so environmentally conscious all his life, being really conscious about taking short showers, like trying to make sure it was less than 3 minutes. And then he was like, and then I learned the fact that eating meat was literally the worst thing I could be doing. So after I'd watched this film, I went vegan pretty much straight away, like hard and fast, no animal products at all. And I remember one of my friends who is a vegetarian, has been a vegetarian for a really long time, my friend Alicia, saying, I mean, good for you, but that's quite a jump. And obviously that makes me be like, oh, I'll be fine, no problem at all. And it lasted a month, and then I completely stopped that whole change of diet, which was completely counterproductive. It was like I went full in without really considering, changing lifestyle habits slowly, without phasing one thing out. I just went cold turkey and it didn't work for me. And I know it's worked for some people, but for me it was just like too much. And then I felt embarrassed that I didn't manage to do it. But I was pretty much back to square one. Alongside this, I had started getting involved more in a movement called Slow Food, which is an international movement all about providing good, clean and fair food for all. It's absolutely brilliant, and I still support them now. And they have a big push around meat and fish, and they are very much in the mindset that they will consume meat and fish, but consume the highest quality that they possibly can. So something I didn't know before I got involved with them was like the difference between what you feed animals that you eat. So there's a large difference between a cow that has been grass fed, so as in like as natural as possible, they're sort of left to roam, but actually what they're eating is grass, versus a cow that is eating feed, so as in eating corn or anything that's been genetically modified or grown in bulk to feed this cow. The quality between those cows is going to be really different, and that's something I had no idea about. So slow food are very much say that you can eat meat as long as you're eating less meat, but you're eating high quality meat. So for quite a while that was something that I decided I would go for. But all the while I still sort of had this niggling feeling of, I've watched Cowspiracy, there are all these people online saying that if you are eating meat, you can't call yourself zero waste. And obviously that was really conflicting, because I was like, oh, I feel like I'm doing all I can. But was that just something that I was saying so I could feel better about myself? Yeah, probably. I was also, I was so aware of obviously the impact of cows that they have on the environment in terms of methane, in terms of how much we eat, that how many cow-based products we eat in the UK and the rest of the world. But I was also really aware of our impact of the fishing industry. And one thing that has popped up on social media quite a lot is the fact that people are really willing to say, oh, I'm not going to use a straw because it might hurt a marine animal, but they're not willing to not eat the marine animal, to not harm the marine animal. And I was like, that's such a good point, and that makes me seem like a right hypocrite. Also, when we go out and fish for animals, a lot of the fishing nets get discarded and just lie on the bottom of oceans, and it's nobody's job to pick those back up, so they just stay in the sea. And actually it's animals getting caught up in those sorts of things that is way worse than an animal getting caught with a straw, because typically that's only animals where they breathe in like a turtle and get it stuck in their windpipe, which is obviously disgusting. But those fishing nets, they just stay there and they just lay on the bottom of the ocean, which is awful. So I was aware of this, I was aware of, I was aware of the impact of all sorts of different things. So I had a time where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna eat chicken. Because in my mind I was like, it's not as big an impact as fish and as eating a cow, but obviously I knew deep down, like, I'm still having this impact. Like, I still know that producing animals to eat them is wasteful by default. Like, the amount of water that they need to have their crops grown, the amount of water that they need to drink, all of that sort of thing is like really wasteful. And I knew this, and I was just giving myself really nice excuses. And another really nice excuse that I was living by was that I live with my boyfriend, and he is a meat eater, and he says he will be a meat eater forevermore. So my excuse was, well, I live with a meat eater, and if I am buying the meat, I'll be the one buying it zero waste. So I'll be the one who goes to the butcher and gets the meat, buys the highest quality meat, buys the meat in a Tupperware box, brings it home, no waste. No plastic waste though, that's what I meant, because meat by default has waste in the production, in the transportation, all of that sort of stuff. So it's a nice convenient excuse for me to use. So I had all of these excuses, but I still had that underlying feeling of I should be doing more. I know what I should be doing, so why am I not doing it? And it was that kind of thing that stuff was being, it was really convenient for me to stay in this lifestyle and not change things. But things changed when my brother told me that he was going pescatarian. So his fiance now, she's been pescatarian for years and years and years and years. She's also celiac, so she has a really restricted diet. He told me he was gonna go pescatarian as well, so I felt like if they can do it, and if she's got such a restrictive diet already, why am I using stupid excuses when I am really aware of the impact of the meat industry? And I've already said about my friend Alicia, but my other friend Alex, she's been vegetarian for a super long time as well. So I had that feeling of, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And anything that involves my brother, if he's doing it, like, I want to do it better. So I was just like, yep, okay, I need to make a difference. And the real turning point was when me and my friend Chloe went to Glastonbury. We were volunteering whilst we were at Glastonbury. We were doing the glamorous job of litter picking. But alongside, it really wasn't that bad actually. People don't believe me when I say that, but it was really good. Part of the perks of the job, if you like, were we got a special area where we could camp. We were slightly further away from all the music. We were out of the way. And we also had access to staff meals. And all the staff meals were vegetarian or vegan. I don't eat dairy, topic for another day, but it's because I've got intolerance. So I was eating vegan that whole week, and Chloe was eating vegetarian. And Glastonbury is the kind of place where there are facts and figures all around about the impact of agriculture on the environment, the impact on eating meat, on your health, on your surroundings, all of this sort of stuff. So it's like we were having these messages that we already knew from outside world, but because we were in Glastonbury, we were very much in a bubble where we were having these messages, and then we were eating this really great food and we were having a wonderful time. So the two of us were like, right, okay, when we leave here, we are going to try and reduce our meat again. And we had that accountability thing then, didn't we? Like, we had the two of us saying, let's make a difference together. And the two of us were both like, yeah, but we live with meat eaters. And we're like, let's do it anyway, because that can't be our excuse. Like, you know, when you know better, you should do better. And I felt very much like I was like, I know what I should be doing and I'm not doing it. And I feel like a little bit of a fraud, to be honest. So yeah, we left Glastonbury and we're like, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to at least reduce our meat as much as possible from what we can, from what we are doing now. And what I'd say I am now is I wouldn't say I am a vegetarian or a vegan, because I still eat eggs. I eat dairy in very small quantities. Like, my body just doesn't deal with it very well. So it's not like I'm doing it out of will, really. It's just because it gives me a really bad stomachache. I'm a flexitarian. So I came across this term. I feel like there's a guy who's written a whole book about it, done a TED talk, all about what flexitarian means for him. But I'd say I was vegetarian 80 to 90% of the time. However, I will eat meat if I know it's going to go to waste. So we live on a high street, and up our high street is a KFC. I was walking there, I think it was a Saturday morning or Sunday morning. Basically, morning after a big night out for a lot of people. And I was walking up the high street, and they had their bins out at KFC. And on top of this bin was a clear plastic bag. The bottom clear plastic bag that was stacked up on top of this bin was full of bread, like, you know, the outside of the buns. It was full of those. And then the next bag on top was literally like a humongous bag full of chicken, like their breaded chicken. And it just broke my heart, because I was like, that all of those animals that are in, those animals lived, those animals died, those got breaded and deep fried, and then they didn't even get eaten. So in that kind of situation, if I could have intervened and eaten that before, I mean, it would have been a lot of chicken to eat, but eaten that before it became waste, in my mind, that is better for the environment. And the reason why I think that is better is because when any kind of vegetables or meats go into landfill and they start breaking down, they release methane. And when they're releasing methane, it's a greenhouse gas, it's not ideal for the environment. So therefore, it's always better to keep that out of landfill, and obviously it's always better to be eating food rather than making it waste. I couldn't go through this bin and eat all of this chicken because I didn't know how long it had been there, and I didn't really fancy doing that when it had been there probably all night. But that is just an example of a time where I would say, okay, if this is going to be waste, then I want to eat it to stop it being somebody who like died in vain, I guess. So that's what I live by now. And that is also what my friend Chloe lives by as well. So she was like, oh, me and Bav, that's her boyfriend, they went out on their anniversary they've been together like 8 years. And she was like, oh, Charlotte, I ate meat the other day. And I was like, oh, where did you eat it? And she was like, oh, we went out for our date night and we were having like a sharing platter, and I didn't feel like I could deprive him from the meat. And I was like, oh, fair enough. Like, so I'm flexible, flexitarian, but I, wherever possible, try and opt for the veggie option. So to answer the main question, oh, Carrie, Stephen and I have been 90% pescatarian for a while, and now I do the same with regards to meat. Yay! Let's not tell Grandma. So to answer the question, the original question, can I eat meat and be zero waste? Now I'd say no. But I'd say it's not black and white. It's not as easy as don't eat anything that comes from an animal, especially if it dips into that thing where I want to eat the food that would otherwise be wasted. So I hope you appreciate my sort of thoughts and feelings and the journey that I've been on. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I know that there are a lot of other people out there who maybe stick to their morals better than I do in terms of lowering their meat consumption or not eating any products that have come from an animal. But where I live now, and the money that I have available for me and the resources that I have, flexitarian works for me. So I hope you have enjoyed learning a bit more about my dietary choices. I really appreciate you listening to this live, and I will speak to you soon. Thanks, bye!